Has anyone here ever heard the name Floripes de Jesus? I didn't think so. I hadn't heard of her either until a few days ago when the Catholic News Agency put out a little story about her. She's a servant of God, which means she's in the first phase on the way towards canonization. And probably the most amazing thing about her is that she lived for 60 years on the Eucharist alone and nothing else. The Catholic News Agency article says, servant of God Floripes de Jesus, better known as Lola, was a Brazilian laywoman who lived on the Eucharist alone for 60 years. Lola was born in 1913 in Brazil. At the age of 16, she fell out of a tree. The accident changed her life. She was left paraplegic and her body changed. She no longer felt hungry, thirsty, or sleepy. No remedy was effective, said Brazilian priest Gabriel Villaverde, who recently shared Lola's story on social media. Lola began to nourish herself with just one consecrated host a day. She lived that way for 60 years. In addition, for a long time, she remained in a bed without a mattress as a form of penance. Faith in her sanctity grew, and thousands of pilgrims came to see her at her home. In fact, a visitor signature book from the 1950s recorded that 32,980 people visited her in just 1 month. Lola would give the same request to all who came to see her: go to confession, receive communion, and complete the First Friday devotion in honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. When her archbishop asked Lola to stop receiving visitors and to live a life of silence and privacy, she obeyed. The bishop allowed the Blessed Sacrament to be exposed in Lola's room, where masses were also held once a week. Daily communion was provided by lay ministers. The priest stressed that Lola dedicated her life to praying for priests and spreading devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. She was known for saying, "Whoever wants to look for me finds me in the heart of Jesus." Lola passed away in April of 1999. Her funeral was attended by 22 priests and some 12,000 faithful. She was declared a servant of God by the Holy See in 2005. The article doesn't say whether she drank water or not, but in the case of most people who live on the Eucharist alone, not only do they not eat anything but the Eucharist, but they don't drink anything either. It also doesn't say whether she lost weight or not, but presumably she didn't. In the case of most people who live on the Eucharist alone, they don't lose weight as a sign that the Eucharist is serving not only as spiritual nourishment, but sufficient physical nourishment for them as well. In today's Gospel, from Matthew chapter 15, Jesus performs a miracle of bread for the hungry crowd. With 7 loaves and a few fish, he feeds a large crowd before him. We're not told how many people were in the crowd. We're just told that he was speaking to great crowds. And after he feeds all those people, at the end there are 7 baskets full of food left over. And the reason Jesus gives for feeding them with this miracle is that they're all about to go home, and he doesn't want them to collapse on their journey. He's giving them nourishment for the journey. 1,400 years before this miracle, God fed his people with miraculous bread from heaven called manna as nourishment on their journey through the wilderness towards the promised land. And today, each one of us is on a journey towards our heavenly promised land. And again, God nourishes us along our journey with miraculous bread from heaven. Every single time we receive Holy Communion in the state of grace, our souls are fed. The Church teaches that every time you receive the Eucharist, you get an increase of sanctifying grace and an increase of the 3 theological virtues of faith, hope, and love. Every time we receive the Eucharist, there is an explosion of grace that happens in our souls. And our church is so good to us, she even allows us to receive twice a day if we want. Every once in a while, God chooses some souls who live on the Eucharist alone for many years. He doesn't choose those people for themselves, and he doesn't choose them so that we'll imitate them. That would be very imprudent. But he chooses them so that they can be for us a reminder of this incredible gift that we have, so that we can stay aware and grateful of this nourishment that God gives us on our journey home. And just as an aside, if you're lucky enough or blessed enough to have a priest at your deathbed, and if you're in a physical shape that's healthy enough as you're dying to receive the Eucharist, which most people aren't, the name of the Eucharist that you receive, the last Eucharist before you die, is Viaticum. You receive Viaticum. Viaticum, via, on the way, te, you, cum, with. It means with you on the way. It's your nourishment for your last journey from earth to heaven. May St. Joseph give us the grace of a happy death so that there's a priest with us while we're dying to give us the Eucharist so that he can be with us on the way. As we prepare to receive the Eucharist in our hearts in just a few minutes, I want to leave you with the words of another great mystic of the Church, the mystic who gave us this painting right here, St. Faustina, about what the heavenly bread meant to her. In her diary, Sister Faustina wrote, "I find myself so weak that were it not for Holy Communion, I would fall continually. One thing alone sustains me, and that is Holy Communion. From it I draw my strength. In it is all my comfort. I fear life on days when I do not receive Holy Communion. I fear my own self. Jesus concealed in the host is everything to me. From the tabernacle I draw strength, power, courage, and light. Here I seek consolation in time of anguish. I would not know how to give glory to God if I did not have the Eucharist in my heart."